Todd, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Doug, I am excited to have you here at the office, and I'm excited to share with all your loyal followers and fans, man.
Man, this is a huge blessing for a guy like you to take the time to do this. You've in our short relationship, you've impacted my life at such a deep level. Your passion for life, your excitement, your joy, your drive, everything that you embody is something that I look up to, and I'm like, man, I want to continue to become a man like you in the way that you impact and lead. So I just want to thank you for this time today. I'm so excited to hear more of your
Man,
story.
I see what you're doing.
What you're doing.
You're firing me up.
Come on, man.
I'm watching the IG and all that. I'm like, man, I like this guy's energy. I like what's going on. So congrats of everything that you're doing. Keep it up, man. I'm really, really excited for your future.
Thank you so much, man. Well, I want to give Justin a quick shout out, man. I got to meet you at Miami. You had a
Mhm.
powerful presentation and just overall incredible presence at his event down in Miami at Redeem. So I want to give Justin some love, and he just brings great people around, and I'm so blessed to have him in my life to get to meet a guy like you and hear your story, man. So it's been great to get to know you through him.
Yeah, Justin and I've known each other for a few years now, and what his vision is with Redeemed. When he asked me to come down there to Miami and share, it was an honor to meet you and a lot of the guys that were there. Know the vision of what Redeemed will be doing future forward is awesome, and I love seeing what Justin's doing now on a lot of levels, including in the fitness world, in the faith world, and just igniting people's souls, man.
Mm, it's good, man. I love it. This is a very exciting season of your life. You've got a lot going on. You've got books, you've got events, you've got big visions for projects that you're working on. And I'm excited to talk about all of that. But to give some context to who Todd Durkin is, who TD truly is, I just want to give our listeners some context and background about who you are. So then we can talk about all the fun things you're doing right now. But how did all this start for you? I want to hear a little bit about your background and just your path and journey getting into fitness and to kind of getting to where you are.
I'll make it the quick version because it's a long story, been around a little bit, and and honestly, when you say it's an exciting time, I know the previous 3.5 years were not, and the
Mm,
reason why right now it's an exciting time is because the previous 3.5 years were very difficult and challenging, and things happened to me in the last 3.5 years I had never had envisioned, and I have a saying. The crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley, and the depth of the valley determines the crest of the wave. And I had ridden a lot of crests, a lot of crests of the waves, but I had never faced the valleys for a 3.5 year period like I had previously. And I'll share some of that later on. But I share it only because sometimes people hear all the good things that are happening
yes.
and they forget some of the things that you've been through. And man, the last few years tough. And as a leader and as a coach and as someone who, as a father of 3 kids, and I've been married for 23 years now,
Let's go.
23 years, I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, man, it gets over 20. I'm like, man, that's a long time.
Hey, man, that's
But,
great.
uh, but I was always an athlete. I grew up an athlete. And for me, being an athlete was the way out. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I was the lunch
Wow.
ticket kid, no money growing up in New Jersey. And when my mom and dad got divorced when I was just a young kid at 5, I knew that my only way out to go to college someday was through sport. And I did very well. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Lettered 11 varsity letters in high school. Played for a powerhouse high school football team in Brick, New Jersey. I played for legendary coach Warren Wolf, the fifth winningest high school football coach of all time. And he was a mentor, a father. He was the mayor of the town, the superintendent of the schools, the high school football coach. He was like, man, I want to be like this guy
He
when
was
I
the
grow up.
guy.
Hey, that was the dude. That was the dude. And I just happened to be blessed with the ability to play football. And I had multiple scholarship offers to West Point, Naval Academy, William and Mary, James Madison, Rutgers. And then, that to me was a lot of hard work and discipline in high school because I didn't party much. I worked my tail off. I was good in school. And I knew that was my way out.
Mm,
And went to William and Mary in Virginia for college. And then after college was done, even though I wanted to play in the NFL, I didn't get that opportunity, so I went overseas. I played in NFL Europe, where to me that was going to be my shot to continue playing my football career. At the age of 25, I suffered a very serious back injury, 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, degenerative back disease, and it left me motionless on a football field in Aix-en-Provence, France. And I'll never forget when that happened for me at 25. I still had big aspirations and dreams to, as an athlete, go change the world. And when the doctor in French, does he have a back problem? The football career is over.
Oh,
I like any athlete has to face their end of the day. I couldn't believe it, and I needed. They said I needed surgery, but I was determined not to get surgery. And over close to a 5 year period, I did everything I could. I lived in 13 different cities in 4.5 years to try to avoid surgery, and ultimately I did. What ended up happening, and the reason I share this is because my back injury led me into fitness and led me from the East Coast to the West Coast, led me to a guy named Michael King. Michael King was a producer in Hollywood. They were producing Oprah Winfrey, Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy. When I met him, I became his coach, his trainer,
wow.
and body worker. And he opened up a lot of doors for me. I eventually moved to graduate school at San Diego State, and I met my future wife in grad school. And it was there that I opened my gym, Fitness Quest 10, in year 2000. So in year
Wow.
2000, no money, no clients, no business plan. I was like, let me open a gym. Like, let me figure this out.
Sounds good
But
to me.
I had a passion to change people's lives,
Well,
and I had the desire to figure things out. I didn't know, hey, I want to be a trainer. I grew up not one. I want to be a pro athlete. That was it. I knew I loved helping people, but I didn't know if I was a doctor, as a physical therapist, a chiropractor, a teacher, coach, or a trainer. And I opened my business year 2000, and it took off. Next thing I know, I'm working with guys like LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer now, Drew Brees, who I've been training for 22 years now. And the list goes on and on. But looking back, it was my back injury that led me into fitness. And and I look back at that tough time at age 25 when your dream is shattered, and all of a sudden I look back now 25 years later, I'm like, that was the biggest blessing of my life.
come on.
And that's what ultimately led me into even where I'm at now. But that's a little bit of the backstory.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I really appreciate before you even set all that up, just the vulnerability and even these last 3 years being a difficult season for you. Obviously, I'm super excited to see how you have a lot of really exciting things we're going to talk about right now going on, but just the transparency there. I think people need to hear the real.
Mm.
And I think there's so many people listening to this that are going to be impacted and inspired by your story and look to you as inspiration, but also be able to relate to you because we all go through hard things, just
Mm.
like you just shared. I want to know people, I look at you, man, I see passion, I see drive. Is that something you've always had even growing up, or was there like a turning point where that switch came on?
It's a good question. I was always a quarterback. I was always a leader. When I was a young kid, I think being the youngest of 8 kids, you better be hungry, you better be passionate, otherwise you're not eating.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Like
Survival.
literally, and I think I always had that fire about me. I think it's definitely God given, but it's also something that I've chosen to make sure I get my mind right, literally through my disciplines and through my habits to keep my mind right when my mind ain't right. Because people are always like, "Oh, you just naturally get your mind right." No, I wrote a book called Get Your Mind Right, and my mind's not always right. I wrote the book sometimes for myself
Wow.
because how do you get your mind right when your mind's not right? When you're going through a difficult season, a difficult time, you're not making the right choices, and you know you're not, but you're still there. How do you how do you battle that? How do you overcome that? And for me, that get your mind right thing has always been something that's been close to me because while I have a gift of, I think my energy and passion is there. There's been times where sometimes I feel like it's darn near extinguished, but I got to fight like heck to to get it back.
Yeah, it's good. I wanna dive into the mindset a little bit before we dive into anything else, because you talk about get your mind right, how important it is. This show is called AIM, which stands for ambition in mind. I had a vision from the Lord talking about how important it is for us to understand the mental choice that we have to choose ambition, to choose drive, to choose the things that we want and not accept our circumstances and our environment. How important is mindset in relation to everything else that we encounter and
Mm.
do?
Oh man, it's impossible to take out how important it is. It's everything. If your mind ain't right, I say mind, body, soul all the
Yeah,
time. It's my I build my life around that because without your mindset, it's hard to get anything done because your mind's not right and you're not motivated, you're not inspired,
yes.
your ambition isn't the same. And it's the same thing if your body's not right. and I know this the last 3.5 years, and we could talk later on it. When your body's not right, your mind gets messed up because if you're physically in pain or you can't do what you love to do, it affects your mind. And all of that is anchored in your spirit, your soul. And if you're not investing the time in your spirit or your soul, you could have a great body, could be working perfectly, your mind could be right, but then you're not filled up
Come on.
with the spirit. So to me, it's hard to differentiate the three of them. But as far as mindset goes, I've had the opportunity in the last 20 plus years to work with some of the best athletes in the world. And what I realized is in working with world class athletes as well as regular athletes and high school athletes and junior athletes and everything else is mindset is the distinguishing factor between good and great. The
Wow.
greatest athletes in the world have a mindset that is unrelinquishing, and they have the fortitude and the strength to battle through adverse things. Like when I'm saying adverse things, I'm talking life changing challenges. And I just was talking to Jordan Love, a client I've been working with. I didn't know this, but a couple months into my training, he shared that, and this is public knowledge, by the way, that Jordan's father had committed suicide when he was 14 years old. I'm like, what? I was
Wow.
like, does the world know this? Do people know this? He's like, well, kind of. It's public knowledge. I haven't talked about it a lot. I'm like, would you be willing to go on the pod and talk about it? He's like, absolutely. Like, do you have a foundation for this? He said, I'm working on it.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, because that's real life stuff. Like now, and when you look at suicide and mental health for kids, adults, doesn't matter. And to me, mindset is absolutely everything.
Man, that's so powerful, man. And you talk about, your transition from playing sports
Mm.
and then having this injury and it's causing you to kind of reflect on your life. Like, what do I do now? You make this pivot into the fitness, and now you're getting these opportunities to train some of these incredible people in Hollywood and then athletes. What do you think? Obviously, there's a lot of trainers in the world. Not a lot of people get to train the top people. What do you think made you so different in the fact that obviously you knew your stuff in the gym, but like why do you think you had these opportunities and how do you think you've been able to forge these incredible relationships with these
Let
people?
me preface it by saying there was a lot of empty days in the 2.5 year period before I even got an athlete.
Yeah.
Like what am I doing?
Come on.
Am I on the right path?
Yes,
Like
share it, man.
is this the right thing? Like, did I really just sign a 5 year lease and put everything on the line? And I don't even know if I want this as a career. And I'm just training anyone. I'm talking anyone who would come in here. It didn't matter if they were a kid, a grandma, grandpa, an overweight man or woman. Like if you came in here, I'd train you. It didn't matter. For 2.5 years, I didn't train athletes. It was regular people from here.
Yeah.
And I just put on, I just loved helping people and
Come
I
on.
just did my thing. I didn't know during this time that one of my regular clients, a woman who was here training, when she said my husband's got a bad back, could you help him? I said, absolutely. I know all about backs. I didn't know when this 6'6", 320-pound behemoth walked through the door that was the starting left tackle for the then San Diego Chargers, Vaughn Parker. I didn't know that was her husband. She never talked about her husband. She talked
Wow.
about herself, and I only talked to her about her health and fitness and not about her husband. And when he walked through the door and I did body work with him, crazy story, but 20 minutes into the session, my table that I was working on him broke in half.
No
No
way.
joke. My first athlete I've ever worked with doing stretching and body work, it broke in half. And here he is, a $20 million athlete. Now, $20 million is a lot of money now, but it was really a lot of money
Oh,
in 2003.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
so he's lying on the floor looking up and he's like, TD, what just happened? I'm like, I'm not sure. But I remember this. This is a true story, Doug. I had just watched, I'm going to show my age here, what's called a VHS tape. Then became VHS, became DVD, and now it's streaming. But it used to be VHS tapes. And I'm watching this tape on, was called this Esalen massage and Thai massage. So I just watched this, I'll just call streaming video on Thai massage.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, I'm going to do Thai massage. I take my shoes off. I'm walking on this dude's back in his glutes. He's like, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm going to figure out what to do because I have 40 minutes left in your session. First pro athlete. And he's on the floor. He's like, this is great. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sweating like a dog.
My
And
goodness.
he gets all, we get done. He's like, that was amazing. He goes, "Would you be willing to come down to the Chargers training room on Mondays after the game and do some of this work with them?" I'm like, "Well, I'll bring a table and absolutely would love to." We had a great session. He called James Collins, the head athletic trainer for the San Diego Chargers. Next thing you know, the following Tuesday, I'm down there on Monday. I'm actually doing massage therapy, body work, stretching, all the San Diego Chargers. That's where I met Drew and Ladanian.
Wow.
Ladanian became in. Ladanian Tomlinson, now Hall of Famer, was my client for 9 years. He came in because I got that opportunity from a woman that was training here. You never know who knows who,
That's such a good lesson.
and that's how I got started. So 2.5 years of just working with anyone. Next thing I know, I happened to meet this woman whose husband played for the Chargers, who then came in, loved the session, and the table broke. And next thing I know, you can imagine that. You figure it out. You don't quit. You don't stop. Say, "Oh, that's the end of the session," and the rest is history.
Come on, man. I love that. There's so much to take from that. I think one of the biggest things that I think we can encourage the audience with is like you truly never know who you're dealing with, who you're talking to, and that's why it's so important to treat everyone with respect. If you're passionate, if
You
you're
never
doing
know.
something, give it
You
all you
never know.
got because it can truly lead to life-changing
You never know.
relationships.
And then even now, you got to think back then, you didn't have social media, you didn't have podcasts, things like this. Is
True.
when you're putting out, I mean, you do this, Doug, when you're putting out great content and you're like, "Man, this guy's special. This guy's great. He's got great content." And then someone says, "Hey, do you know this Doug Elks guy, this Elksy guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I watch his stuff." Now you're truly are one step removed from anyone that you want to meet.
That's right.
Now, then when you say, "Well, man, I had no idea for 2.5 years, even though I'm an athlete, I still consider myself an athlete, and then I still consider myself an athlete, and I thought my gift was in working with athletes. I didn't have an in, and I couldn't go on social media because social media didn't exist. So it truly was word of mouth back then. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I do believe that there was a greater plan up top
Mhm.
that you know
Come on.
you got to remember. Here's the deal. This is me now in my early 50s. I always wanted to be the pro quarterback. I wanted to be the NFL quarterback. And I believe that my platform, this was me at 25, thinking my platform was going to be good and I was going to do great things with my platform. And then when all that happened, I almost had some bitterness, not only to the game of football, but man, that's my gift. I didn't realize then, but I've worked with some of the top athletes, top quarterbacks in the NFL the last 25 years.
Incredible.
The impact that been able to have on some of those guys is far bigger, probably than if it was just by myself anyway.
Mm.
So when you look at the dozens of guys I've worked with, God's plan was you go coach them, you train them in all aspects of life and physicality, and in everything in that you impart into them. And that's been my career for now almost 25 years in working with these guys. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? If I only would have trusted more like the plan, because I want my plan. I need to be the quarterback.
That's good.
Like this
Well,
should be me. Now I'm like, man, I've had the opportunity to work with some of the best guys in the world. And I would have never thunk that at the age of 25 if I would have trusted even more then that God's got the perfect plan.
I love that so much, man. I think that can be encouraging to a listener right now, knowing that no matter what you go through, or what do we Romans 8:28, he can use all things for the good of
That's
those who
it.
love him and are called
Yeah.
according to his purpose. And I look back similar to you and I look at the hard times, the transitions, the times where things aren't going my way. I look back now, I'm like, man, that set me up to do what I'm doing and what God truly had for me, which is way better than what I thought I had for myself.
Huge,
And I love that.
huge.
I wanted one more question on the athletes you taught, and then I want to kind of transition into some projects you're working on. But like you said, you've been able to train some of the most successful quarterbacks in the NFL, some celebrities, different people that are performing at a high level. What big lessons or strategies have you given them? Maybe just name a one or a couple that you think would be really powerful for our listeners that you've seen. Because you look at a guy like Drew Brees, he probably came to you with a ton of talent, ton of skill. How are you able to elevate him as a coach? What are some things that you're able to offer him to get him to that next level?
Well, number one, don't treat them any different than you treat anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't treat any of my guys or gals different than my moms and dads coming into the gym here to get great in the game of life. It was a joke back in the day when Ladanian would come in and train at 9 o'clock in the morning, and at 10 o'clock I'd have Kathy and Carter Peace, and then Donna Dickinson, and they're like, "Why don't you have an athlete performance only facility?" I'm like, "What's different about them?
Mm.
What they Donna and Kathy and Carter, they want greatness in their life, just like LaDainian wants to be the best of all time. To me, it's all about being the best you can possibly be. I don't care who you are, what you do. It doesn't make you any better because you're an athlete or a non-athlete or you're an entrepreneur. I want to train people to maximize their potential, whatever they do. And Kathy and Carter, who are in retirement, I want to make sure that they get the workout they need to get like LaDainian. Now you could say, well, yeah, but he's worth X millions of dollars. I don't care what you're worth. It's like we're training to be the best you can possibly be.
It's good.
So the thing is, number one is don't treat them different than anybody else. And then, a couple of the things as far as takeaways is in the athlete world, you don't want to be a yes man. You don't want to just be a yes man to athlete. I don't care what level. You got to make sure you challenge people and tell them things they need to hear, not they want to hear, because people are always feeding people's egos. And you don't want to be just fed like your ego all the time. You need to be told what needs to be told, like keeping it real, like when you're in middle school or high school, like when coaches will be on you about what you're not good at as well as what you are good at. And if you can, be accentuating the positive, but also be giving some corrective feedback. What I've always found with any of the clients that I have, including the world class, baseball guys, fighters, football guys, is you got to tell them what they're doing good and what they're not doing good at. And if you want to get better at these things, here's the plan. In session, here's
That's
what you
good.
need to do. When you're not in session, how about your nutrition? We need to get you hooked up with the right meal plan and looking at your macros and what when you're messing up. Are you out partying? And if you're drinking and that it takes for every one drink that you have, it takes 24 hours for your soft tissue to recover. I don't care about the hangover. I care about your soft tissue because that's how you're going to get injured, pull the Achilles. That's how you're going to, you're going to get hurt and pull a muscle for every drink that you have. That's 24 hours. So if you go out downtown and you're drinking, that's 3 days that you come in on Monday to train with me. I can't train you at the level that you need to train at to be the best in the world that you say you want to be.
Wow.
So that to that level, that's how deep I'm going with their training, their nutrition, their recovery, their hydration, their mindset.
Mm.
And I'm asking about what they're doing outside here. Because if you're nowadays, if you're on the phone and you're scrolling the IG or whatever, and you're looking at trash, I'm like, let me see your phone. And like, no, 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 don't see the phone because we get hooked into that whole aspect,
Yes.
and it's the accountability. So
It's
I guess
good.
the account, like all of us guys and girls, we need accountability, right? And that's the hard thing to me is get that as accountability partners. You get the right people around you, and call an ace a spade a spade. That's called a coach. Coaches bring out the best in you, and they ultimately they care. I think that's why most of my athletes I've had for a long time is because I care. I want them to be the best that they say they want to be. Right?
I think you have to respect passion too. And I think you look at a guy like you, and I'm like, dude, I'm listening to this guy. I might not agree with everything he says, but you have a body of work, you have passion, you're so driven, and I'm like, you're about your business.
Yeah.
And I think guys, no matter who you are, athlete, mom or dad, can look at you and be like, I'm gonna listen to this guy. He knows what
Yeah.
he's doing. That's good, man. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about an exciting announcement that you're going to make tomorrow, but when this podcast airs, it'll be live about your next book coming out.
Yeah.
I want to hear all about it, man. You've got some incredible books you've written and you've helped so many people through your books. I want to know why this one is special and why you wrote it and what it's all about.
Mm. Doug, man, this is deep. Well, first off, I got to say that I became a writer in middle school. My father taught me how to write.
Let's go.
I'm the youngest of 8 kids. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, as I said earlier on. But my dad, I was up for Pop Warner All American, and he had to write 8 essays. I still remember, and I was down on the ping pong table, 13 Edgewood Drive, Brick, New Jersey. And he's like, "All right, we're going to teach you how to write." Because I had a, and there weren't computers. You got to think you got to hand write this stuff out,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You make a mistake on the yellow legal pad, you better rip that thing off and get another piece of paper. And my father taught me how to write and be creative, and I started to enjoy the process of writing. And I realize now it's a lost art, and I actually like writing now, because I learned it at a younger age. So for anyone listening in, if you're in your 20s or younger or 30s, doesn't matter. Like work on your writing because it's an art and it's a skill, and if you can learn that, you can do good things in just communication as well as maybe someday you do want to write a book, maybe. Um, but this book is really it's my fifth book, and my first one came out in 2010 after Drew had won his first Super Bowl and became the MVP. And the reason I share that is because the book actually starts with a crazy story that I would have never anticipated happening. But 14 years later, the name of this book is called True Strength, the one that's coming out here in June. And it's crazy because true strength is based on the last 3.5 years of some tough times,
Let's go. Come on.
some really tough times. When I say the crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley, I had a lot of crests in my career. In 20 years of training all these athletes. Listen, there were some tough times, obviously, during that, but there was a lot of crests, a lot of highs, and MVPs and Super Bowls and personal victories and accolades and awards. Cool, all that's good. But I had never faced the adversity I'd faced from 2020 to 2023, May of 2023. And true strength, I had zero desire to write a book in that 3.5 year period from 2020 to 2023 until I got through that period of time and said, wow, what just hit me? And looking back now in 2024, I don't want to lose the lessons that someone else who might be battling or going through a tough season of their
Come on.
life or will go through a tough season or suffer loss. About everything that could go wrong went wrong on various levels because the things that have happened, I could never have predicted in 2019 physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. And looking back now, my perspective is completely different with what I thought my vision of life was and where I was going to be at versus what's going to be happening now. And that's what true strength is really about is how you dig down deep into your own soul and keep battling when the odds are stacked against you.
Mm. Sounds pretty relevant to me. Sounds like something a lot of people need.
It's it's relevant for anyone, whether you're at the crest or you're at the valley, because uh, we all go through tough times, but we all want the best times.
It's good.
We all love the best of times. We all want more great times right now, myself included. We always look back at our previous defeats and losses, and we learn the most during that time.
That's right.
But when you're going through a time where you get death threats, when you sell your business or part of your business, when you're in such, I had second knee surgery, a back that went out that caused me to be pretty much incapacitated for close to a year. And I didn't know what side was up and what side was down. Two of my athletes had committed suicide during this time. Um, it was a tough time, man. And looking back, now as this book is about to come out, I realized that God was preparing me to take me to a place that I could have never envisioned. I always had big dreams. You're talking to a guy that has the biggest dreams in the world, and I'm like, I'm going to impact 10 million people, and
Come on.
I got all this stuff, and with humility, I say that. With humility, I work to to serve others, but I didn't realize that God had a bigger plan for me than I had for myself. And what's about to hit with the book and everything that's going to happen, I share it all. And as a man, I am completely transparent of where I was at mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually, and the amount of prayer I did during this time. I've always been a man of faith, but never have I leaned into my faith like I had during this 3.5 year period.
I am so excited to read this book. I
Um,
can't wait for our audience to get a hold of this book and read it. And I'm just, I know, what I know from you and your story and your passion and drive, and I see it, and I know you're on and you're helping, you're serving. But like you said, like no matter what, it's inevitable. Life happens. It's hard. We go through ups and downs. But the fact that you're in a position where your testimony is so powerful, and now you're able to encourage people through what they're going through, gets me fired up. And I love seeing people do that.
well, what's interesting is when you're going through a tough time, and I'll just use for one of the many things that happened was my back. 6 weeks after my knee surgery, my back went out, and if you were to see my back, you wouldn't believe it
Mm.
because the doctor asked me, "Hey, did you serve in Afghanistan?" I was like, "I wish I could say I did, but no." It looks like a grenade went off in my back, and someday I'll need the 14-hour surgery they said I need. But the reason I say that is because when you're going through a physical challenge, like your back or your knee, or you get your ACL blown out in sport, and you go through a tough time physically, it affects you mentally. And you're trying to figure things out of like how this all fits in. But I'm a workout guy. And when you can't work out because you're so physically shot, like
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how can I get the same endorphin release and the same emotional feeling from a workout, but I can't lie on my back. I can't curl weights. I can't even sleep. And I'm trying to figure all this out. And I'm like, man, God, like, what is going on here? Like, do I need to have this surgery and all this stuff? But I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want to become my back. So I'm training my guys in a back brace. I didn't tell any of my pro guys. I didn't tell anyone my back was shot because I don't want to become my back. I'd already lived that 25 years previously. How's your back? How's your back? How's your back? You become your back. So I'm walking around.
Wow.
I'm not telling anyone. So I'm like suffering in silence, other than my wife knowing that I got this back and knee and everything going on. And I am at the brink's end of being like, done. I can't do this. But I don't want to tell people because it's all about then your back. I'm like, I'm bigger than my back. I'm a
That's right.
spiritual being.
That's right.
But as soon as you say you're in pain, how's your knee? How's your knee? How's your knee? I'm like, I'm not my knee. I'm not my back. And I got that when I was in my 20s. I understood that. But I share it because sometimes you think you're your ailment. And I created probably more content in that 3.5 year period for my own healing. People are like, man, you were so prolific during that time.
You
No, I
needed it.
wasn't prolific. That was for me
Wow.
to survive. I came out with my impact journal. I came out with my God Size Dreams planner. I came out with a book called What's Next. I'm producing because I was trying to figure it out myself. So I'm just creating content like, man, you are just on fire. Like,
Got to keep
I'm
going.
about to die.
Yeah.
I'm about to die, literally and figuratively. I'm about to die. And all this content's going out. So people think you're on fire. And deep down, I'm like, no, I'm not. And that's what true strength's all about. I share it all, like how sometimes we get so messed up. I mean, that's healing in some ways to create content. I didn't ever skip the podcast. I love doing my podcasts like you, Doug, and I never skipped that. It was healing to me. Um, but when you're in pain on any level, for anyone, physically, mentally, I understand pain now at a level, and I've understood pain for a long time. Never have I felt pain physically and mentally like I felt pain for 3.5 years. I get it now. I get so many DMs of people who are going to pop themselves or they hear a podcast or something that are in pain, deep pain, from people in their 20s or late teens, all up to 50 somethings that are like, they're deep. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. And that's where I think God's using me now in a way that I had never ever anticipated, or even desired. Like I knew I wanted to serve more, but I didn't know it was going to be in this capacity. And I think this book, True Strength, is only going to further accentuate how God's going to use me,
Come on.
because this is just a start of what's about to come.
That's right.
This is only one of my announcements that's about to happen. So, but I'm really, really excited for it.
Man,
Real excited for it.
praise God, man, for your testimony. And I love to see people that are obedient and trust and have faith in God's plan that can use the hard seasons to go impact and empower more people. And that's
Mm,
what you're doing.
mm.
I'm excited about it. Let's talk about the second thing. So you got an event coming up.
Yeah.
This is a big deal, and it's something I'm excited to attend and be a part of. I'd love for you to share with our audience a little bit about what you have coming up this summer and what's important and
Yeah.
why you're doing it. What's your heart behind it?
Well, I love live events. I love live events.
They're the
It's
best.
probably why my spirit was decrepit for 3.5 years, because during the pandemic, I love people. I love live events, and we put on a lot of live events over the time. And I think that's one of the things that my team and I do best are live events. And um, I had a retreat in 2022 called the Shift Retreat. Like, what are you shifting into? And and it was awesome. And we had like 150 people at this retreat, and it was just on fire. But because of what true strength is all about and where the path that I've traveled, I had a vision and a dream in 2023 to have a summit, an impact summit where we're going to come together. It's 12 other speakers and myself in LA in July, and it's really about stepping into the best version of yourself. And what are you going to do? Like
I love
literally,
it.
there's physical, there's mental, there's emotional, there's spiritual, and there's a lot of business as well, that's going to be represented, because with the faith, the fitness, and the business side of things, it's going to be represented all the way into networking and parties in the evenings and podcasters row. It's going to be a summit that is truly going to represent everything that I'm about and that our community is about. I invite anyone that's looking to step into the best version of themselves, regardless. You do not need to be in the fitness field.
Yeah.
People keep like, you need to be a trainer, coach. No, no, you don't. Maybe 50% of the people might be trainers, coaches, or fit pros, but we have a lot of just everyday Joes and Janes who are like, man, I'm a personal growth junkie. I want more. Who's going to be in this room is going to be off the hook. I've invited all my special friends and people that are looking for the same type of fellowship. And it's going to be a very special JW Marriott, Los Angeles, July 11th to the 14th. And I'm really excited. We're already going hard on preparation,
Let's
and
go.
there's early bird specials going on now. There's signups now, so someone could just go to my website and take a look at all of it. But I'm excited to have you, Doug,
Come
there.
on.
But yeah, the Impact Summit was really birthed in the middle of all this stuff of like, I can't wait to get these live events going again. And I always say this:
Yes.
be in the room,
That's good.
whatever event it's at, be in the room. Like Zoom, like as good as it was, and it's still valuable. Be in the room,
It's good.
shake hands. I call it press the flesh. Press the flesh with another man or woman. And when you give a handshake or a hug, or you feel the vibration and frequency in a room when it's live, it touches your soul in a way that is impossible that you can get through any other connection when you're live. And sometimes the magic happens not even in the session. It's in the hallway, right? A meal,
Yes. That's
or it's
right.
in the workout that we're going to have every morning, or it's in the evening when you're talking to a fellow, colleague, and you're like, hey, what do you do? And next thing you know, you're like, there's a collaboration that happens, or a business that happens, because of you being in the room. I'm like, be in the room. And when you're in the room with the right people, magic happens. When the spirit's there, things just happen. But you got to be in the room. And that's when you start building in issues why you can't be in the room. Just be in the room, find a way. And I can give you countless examples, even in my younger days when I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that. It's a bad time. I got 1,000 things going on. I'd show up and I get one thing out of it. And that one thing was a game changer for my business, my career,
Yes.
my relationship,
Yes.
collaboration, someone meeting someone that brought me to an Under Armour, whatever it is. Like, these are the people who are going to be in the room.
Man,
Be in the room.
I could not agree more. And you're coming at it from you have so much more experience than I do. And I'm so glad to hear your take on that. But my relationships have changed my life. The way that God has opened doors through real relationships that have occurred from being in the room, showing up. If I'm not at
Got
Justin's
it.
event,
Got to be in the room.
if Justin was super kind and invited me to that event, but if I don't show up to that event, I don't meet you. We're not sitting down talking about this, and who knows how many people need to hear this episode and God
Correct.
align this.
Correct.
But you got to show up, and I would encourage anyone listening. We'll put the link to the event in our show notes of this episode. So if you're listening now, you can just go to the show notes and listen or check it
Well,
out. But
and
show up.
if I didn't know you and you emailed me like, hey, can we do a podcast? I'll be like,
No
who
way.
is this guy? I don't know who
Yeah,
he is.
no
So
shot.
probably not going to happen. But all of a sudden you show up to events, and like, I don't know, we get the podcast row. You're going to meet podcasts. You're going to meet people who are YouTubers. You're going to meet everybody. And next thing you know, you're in the room and you're collaborating, networking. That's where the magic happens.
That's right.
You got to press the flesh.
And I think a lot of people are searching right now more so than ever for community, man. And like
Big time.
you got to show up, and you need to put yourself in a room where there's
Mm.
like-minded people that are searching and developing themselves in the same direction you're headed.
So
And
true.
that's what you're doing. And that's why I'm so attracted to being around you and learning from you, and just
So
grateful
true.
for all you're doing, man.
So true. So true.
We could talk for hours. I want to wrap this up and be sensitive to your time with just where you're at right now. We talk about the book coming out. That's going to help millions of people. We talk about the event. So many people's lives will be changed because of this,
Yep.
and be able to experience this event in person. What are some other visions or things on your heart, some things that you have that you're excited about, that you feel like, God's put on your heart for how you can continue to level up? You're a guy that never wants to be consistent, or excuse me, never be stay constant, sorry, getting stuck and plateauing. I know you're a guy that's always going to continue to reach for more, to do more, to help more,
Mm.
to impact more. So what's on your heart right now?
Man. Well, number one, my family. Again, I really, out of all the things I've done, my family is real special. And I've got a son. I got two sons back in college in North Carolina,
Let's
over your
go.
way. And I love those boys. I miss them. I got a daughter. She's in high school, and I'm coaching the lacrosse team. And I love that aspect. But as a man, a father who balances both entrepreneurial pursuits and parenting and being a husband, that's the hardest thing I do, is that balance between the two. And from a professional standpoint, I'm really excited about the summit, and I'm really excited about the book. The book has been a passion project, and it's not like I take 6 months off and don't do anything else. It's in addition to, I'm really proud of what's going to happen with this book, because we're actually taking a portion of the proceeds and giving it back to mental health and suicide prevention.
Wow.
And I'm really excited for that, because in 2012 I started my own foundation, the Impact Foundation. And that was based on a disaster, Hurricane Sandy. It ravaged the Jersey Shore, where I'm from, and that was the impetus for me to start the Impact Foundation. And since that time, we've given back over $350,000. We scholarship kids to college every year.
Wow.
So if you are or know a high school senior who's graduating and needs help financially, depending on when this drops, we are at the tail end of accepting our applications, because here early June we're actually giving out scholarships. But that being
Amazing.
said, year round we're accepting um, uh, applications for individuals and families in need through the Impact Foundation. But for this book specifically, I wanted to make sure that this book was really just a vessel and a vehicle that we could um, hopefully sell a ton of books and then give a ton of money right back
I
to
believe it.
those who need it. And even people like myself who were in a really deep, dark valley. Now, I don't know who it's going to reach, but I can share this, that we're going to be giving money directly back to people who are in desperate times in need of mental health. And not only two of my athletes committed suicide.
Mm.
This is near and dear to me, because my wife's brother committed suicide many years ago. So I realize this is a big thing now. It's a big problem that we face in our society. And I'm like, man, if we can do something really good with this book, and give a ton of money away to help kids and adults deal with this. Number one, you know me, I'm going to be like, get out and work out. And, we got to train. But
Right.
that's not always the answer, like just work out. And I know that. But, working out is part of it. So we got a lot of working out stuff going on. And then obviously, all the other initiatives and great other organizations and 501(c)(3)s that give back to mental health. And I'm involved in a lot of military organizations who give back to the military men and women who are overcoming PTSD and that stuff. So for me, I'm really excited about that. And all of it is going to come to the pinnacle in June. I've got a huge announcement that all of this is coming into my next endeavor, where I'm going to be really working on my legacy project that
Let's
for the
go.
next couple of decades is what I'm really all about, where I can take my books, my writing, my speaking, all my fitness and the athlete training that I do, and I'm going to be taking it nationally.
I'm in awe, man, of everything you're doing, everything that God's doing through you, man. This is so exciting, and I'm been so blessed to know you. I'm just here to support you, man. I'm here to just anything I can just to follow and do all the cool things that you're getting involved in. Where can people find you, man? People that are listening to this, they're inspired, they're encouraged, and they're like, I need more TD in my life.
Probably the best way, you can go to my website, todddurkin.com. There'll be three D's in there, TODDDURKIN.com. Um, I like Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot. I have a podcast, the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And we have a text service too. I use it a couple times a week, where I'm texting motivation.
I love it.
My athletes are always like, hey, can you send me one of those get your mind right videos? And I send all these crazy videos. So I text people through this text app, and the number is 619-304-2216. That's my cell number. Yeah, that's my cell number, 619-304-2216. You sign for my text, and then you're going to start getting some crazy videos from this guy right here. And I just love the interaction. I mean, to me, that's like oxygen for my soul when
Come on.
someone, comes in and shares a text with me, like they do every day, about where they're at, or they listen to a podcast, or they listen to a message, or read a book. To me, I just need like one of those a day. If I get one of those a day, whether it's one or whether there's 100, I don't know how many people it always reaches, but to me, it's like that one person that you helped. You don't always know who. And as you know,
It's good.
your platform grows, Doug, you realize you just don't know who you're touching or who's listening or who's reading. And that's what makes me tick. And that's, that's the clarity that I've gotten. And I will say this, and I'll share it. In the last 3.5 year period, I kept coming back to the verse from James 1:2. And I got that from Pastor Jeremiah. If you don't know who Pastor Jeremiah is, if you listen, he's one of the most iconic pastors of our time. I've had the opportunity to work with him and train him for over a decade now. I've learned a lot from that man, but um, one of the things that I kept coming back to, this is really hard when you're going through it. The consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish the work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And I'm like, who wants to be tested anymore? No, we hate to be tested, or we don't love to be tested. But scripture says that by being tested, it's going to produce perseverance, and
Yes.
perseverance is ultimately going to allow us to be most mature. And I would meditate on that verse so many times, thinking about what does that mean, because I am being tested beyond what I'm capable of. I don't know if I can take being tested anymore. I
Mhm.
get it for a month or two or three, or some of the things that have happened previously. Like, I get it. But for 3.5 years, man, I meditate on that verse. It's one of my favorite verses, James 1:2. It's just about perseverance and being tested in that. So I guess my final thing I'd say is, if you're being tested today, just meditate, open up a blank journal and write, or go to the scripture and really meditate on a verse like a James, or read Proverbs, because I'm not the most biblically literate man on earth, but I would read Proverbs every day.
Yes.
And okay, what day is it? It's okay. It's the 27th. So Proverbs 27, like,
Love it.
I needed like to dumbify everything.
Getting the word.
I just keep reading it over and over and over and over and over and over again, the book of wisdom. And I'd read it, and like, man, Proverbs 27:17, like, that's my thing. Like, iron sharpens iron. And okay, cool, cool, cool. Like, and the more you're spending time and meditating on whatever it is, or you follow a track, all of a sudden, like, you're spending more time. And when you're facing the difficult time, it's giving you that oxygen for your soul to keep going as well.
And praise God. That's good, man. I think that verse is powerful. What a lot of people don't, they see the beginning, right? Consider pure joys when you face trials and tribulation.
Yep.
That part's pretty common, but the second part that you touched on, I think, needs to be emphasized, that it matures us, it completes us.
100%.
God wants to do a work so powerful in your life.
Yep.
He's got good works for us. Ephesians 2:10. He created us a masterpiece. Through Jesus, we're made anew to do all the good works he has for us. He has good works for us, and sometimes that includes us going through a tough season. We got to understand that that's an opportunity for us to grow closer to
Yeah.
him, grow our faith, and ultimately put on display how great he is.
That's it.
That's the perspective we need to have
Yeah.
in
Well, it
tribulation.
says there, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. What
Come on.
happens when we're facing trials? It becomes like a vortex, like,
Yes.
and you just get so closed off
It's
and
good.
down. And that's what I was fortunate to have Pastor Jeremiah and another pastor friend of mine of a long time, Miles McPherson, pouring into me during this time in this season. And we spend a lot of time on that, is just keep asking God for guidance, because so many times we just want to, like, close everything off. And that verse speaks to me. But you're absolutely right, is, don't stop there. You keep going, and
Going.
that ultimately leads to maturity. And that's the one thing, this 3.5 year period, true strength as a coach and trainer, true strength, people think muscle.
Mm.
They think physical strength, true strength. No, 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 no. True strength isn't physical
That's
strength.
right.
Like, I don't care if you're 25 or you're 55. True strength isn't just muscle. True strength is when you feel like you're going to be broken in half or you're going to die. It's the strength to rely on God,
Come on, man.
and to give everything up to God. Like, I had to go to my knees and say, I God, I'm all yours. I'm all yours. Whatever you want. My back is broken. My knee is replaced. My mind is shot. I don't know what you want, but I'm all yours. And when you get to that point, when you have to recommit yourself, or at least reaffirm to God, like, I'm all here, um, that's when you're like clay. I think that's when and God can mold you and get you to where He wants. And what's exciting about right now is I'm coming out of that valley, and we're starting to hit these crests again. And the crests get larger as the valley was deeper.
Yes.
So as we learn in life, and you look back, for me, about 25 years senior, um, your senior, Doug, is it's like all the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the crests and the valleys, all these things. There's a lot of crests, there's a lot of valleys, and those crests can lead to some valleys, and those valleys can lead to some crests. But when you trust God through it all, you realize that there's this master plan. You got to have more faith in that plan, because man, I share some stuff in the book that I wish I would have trusted more at the depths of my despair, like on the room when I was with my wife and on a vacation in Mexico, because my son had graduated high school, and I'm pleading for her to take me to a hospital in Mexico to have surgery because my back is so bad. That's how bad it got. To like, I'm done. Like when you're in Mexico wanting to go to the hospital for surgery,
That's what,
it's bad.
yeah,
It's bad.
I believe
And
it.
I love Mexico, but
I
it
believe
was
it.
bad. And it's just interesting, as God was just getting me to where He wanted me to be, so that I can ultimately do what He wants me to do.
Mm. And your faith is inspiring me, man. It's good. And I think the last thing I'll say on that too is something to encourage people. Suffering, as bad as it gets here on earth, is temporary.
Mm,
I don't think we always have that perspective or that realization that no matter how bad it gets, it's temporary. But the one thing that's not temporary is when we put our faith in Jesus Christ
yep.
as our Lord and Savior. That's how we go to heaven. That's how we have eternal life with the Father. And through what Jesus did, nothing we could ever do personally. That is the hope that we can have and cling to in the midst of the most intense suffering on earth. This life is temporary. The season you're in is temporary. The pain you're dealing with is temporary, but Jesus isn't.
Yeah, that's good. I heard something the other day. It resonated deeply, is that our time on earth is so short compared to the time that we'll spend in eternity, right? Because we think about our life, however long we're going to live. We don't know that, obviously,
That's right.
but it's so short compared to eternity. So why mess around with your do you believe in God or do you not? Like, we've got to get our faith right and make sure that everything's in line, because like this time on earth is finite and it's short, and we're all going to die. We know that we're all going to die. We don't know when. So let's make sure that we're right, because the time in eternity is forever, forever. So I sometimes think of myself, man, like that's a really powerful statement. Like the time on earth is short compared to the time in eternity. That resonated with me. It's like, man, that's really good.
It is, and I'll be honest, like we have a younger audience. I think when you're younger, it's you don't think about those things as
No.
much, and so I appreciate your encouragement there and the truth and the vulnerability in your story and your testimony, man, and how you've clung to your faith, and that's gotten you through everything you've been able to encounter.
Yeah. Well, you learn in life, whether you're 20, you're 30, 50, or you're 83. Um, you lose a lot of people along the way. You never think. When I look back at my college teammates, several of my college teammates at William Mary playing football, these were studs. They're no longer alive through things that have happened. Like some of the people, like, what? Like, you just don't know. Sometimes we think we have a lot of life to live. I hope that's the case. My plan is to live to 110. I got it
Let's
all
go.
planned out.
Come on, man.
like 110, baby. We got a lot of living left. But maybe God's had a different plan. You don't know. But you better not leave it any stone unturned. Like you
That's
better
right.
be ready to go, because even if you do live to 110 years old, that's still very short
Mm.
compared to eternity, forever and ever, right? So, yeah, I look back now, and if there's anyone there, it's just, again, spend time in the Word.
Yes.
Um, spend time in the Word. The greatest thing I've learned in my 3 years, really, in getting deeper in my own faith walk, is that all of this is about the relationship with Jesus versus the religion that you are.
Come on.
Right. And I learned that when I was in chapel service the night before Friday night. It was a Saturday game, Friday night, and Pastor Freddie Mitchell said that. And even though I'd grown up Catholic and was raised in the church, never did I ever really think about my relationship with God. It was just went to church
Yeah.
and I was good. I did my thing. But that struck me. To this day, it's about the relationship, and whether it's sometimes when I'm working out or I'm out for a walk or you getting after it or on a plane, and I'm like checking in on a relationship and talking to Jesus as if your best friend, like you're sitting there like,
It's
hey,
good.
hey, geez, like, what would you do here in this situation? This is what I'm facing. What would you do? How do I decide this? And it's that, it's that, it's that relationship
That's it.
versus this formality that it always has to be, what I used to think it had to be versus that relationship and uh, that can really help deepen your own faith walk to get you to be the man or the woman that you want to be and are designed to be. So that's some of my own
Go.
evolution as a man of faith. Is I used to think it was about that religion, and I realize now, man, I said to my kids all the time, and those who I speak with, is it's about the relationship. It's about the relationship. So what can we do to spend more time in that relationship?
Mhm.
And by the way, sometimes I'm like, man, I need to spend more time with my man. Like I need to
Yeah,
get more time with him
that's
because,
right.
like, sometimes the morning routine might get cut short, or I'm on the road and I'm not spending as much time as I just gotta recommit to getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I'll be reminded of something I'm working on. I'm like, okay, make Jesus part of this decision making process with the book. Hey, listen, when you start talking about Jesus, you start writing about him, you're putting yourself out there.
That's right.
And so and this is something I've had to deal with. Like, how is you so confident? Well, as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit more like, I'm just going to be me, who I am. I'm not going to worry about what people think all the time. Because when I was 20 years old, I thought I cared way too much what people thought about me all the time. That was my
Yeah.
biggest thing. I'm like, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? Don't care as much about what other people think. Just be you. And now I think about that. It's like, man, I just want to share how important that walk is, Jesus and with God, and what would He do?
Man, let's go, Todd. You got me fired up, man. I just last question. Do you have building insurance?
Building
Yeah,
insurance,
on the building.
yes.
Okay, good. Because I'm about to run through the wall, man. You got me fired up, man. This
Oh,
is
we've had some people put their heads to the wall and everything
I'm about
else.
to
So
run my whole body through the
I
wall,
love
man.
it.
This is, man, again, thank you for this. This has been a blessing. You've blessed our audience, and we are just so grateful for you and your story and your testimony and your passion, your drive,
Thank you.
everything, man. The impact you've left on me, and I'm excited to continue to build this relationship, man.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for what you're doing. I'm watching you, I'm seeing you, I'm hearing you, and every time I see you pop up or hear you from the podcast or on your Instagram, I smile because I know that God's working through you, and when you're up in front of a group of people and you're shining, it's very clear your radiant energy is coming from above. So keep up the great work. I'm excited to watch you do your thing. Um, I used to love working with mentors when I was younger. I still work with my mentors, but I look back and I see someone like yourself. I'm like, man, the future is bright for you. The sky is blue. So keep being you, man.
Thank you, man. May God get all the glory, man.
Amen.
I'm really grateful, man. This has been great. Thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Love it.
Let's go.